just you get to choose. Right? Like here's the scenario. The environment gives us something which can be perceived as negative, can be perceived as not working, can be perceived as problematic. The world's ending. But we get to choose to see it like that, or we get to choose to see it as an opportunity.
So clearly that it's my responsibility now to do that for other people. If I have information and, other people's success is my success and vice versa.
Because you know what? Like, the challenges or the roadblocks are the journey themselves.
There's no big things. It's all little things compounding on top of each other.
Happy birthday, Coach Josh.
Thanks, Coach. Been saying it for a full week, but I'll keep taking it. I'll keep allowing it.
What do birthdays mean to you these days?
I used to be the guy that the birthday was just another day. Don't pay attention to me, and I don't know. I've been embracing the last couple of years that it's okay to celebrate. It's okay to do something for myself on my birthday. Have my favorite meal. Do something that I've been wanting to do for a while. Splurge a little bit. So that's been different for me the last couple of years.
Yeah, it's funny how it comes and goes. I'm a big UFC fan. I watched that John Jones is coming back this weekend. Excited to see him fight for the heavyweight strap. And he's been in the UFC for a long time. He's been off for 3 years for various reasons, but he just turned 35. So I thought it'd be poignant to have a conversation. But he talks about like people saying to him, like, I've been watching you since I was 10. And I remember thinking when John Jones started, he was like 23 when he won his first title or something. So he's been around for a long time in the UFC. And I think about where I was then as well. So it's good for context, right? It's another check-in point. I think what we talk about oftentimes, high achievers, 1%ers, that we're not using the macro environment to use as our check-in. We're not waiting for the end of the year to check in on our goals or plan about who we want to be. We're not waiting for Thanksgiving to have some time to reflect. We're doing it all the time. I've been this week. It's the 2nd of March today as we record this. But this week, what I've been sharing with my clients a lot is like as they jump on their calls, like happy last month of the first quarter, right? And because it's context as to like, all right, we're already 2 months into the year, gone, done. Where are we? Check in. And I like these little seemingly random times to check in, because why have we got to check in just because the date says Q1's done? Even that for most people is like, I didn't even register what Q1 is, but it's significantly important to go, where am I? Is it real? Or am I just going to just bounce through week on week on week until I'm like half of the year's done or whole of the year's done? I think it's just another way of keeping us in the place of moment, like what's real, what's now.
Mm-hmm. How often should it happen? Is there a sweet spot there? Can you do it too much?
I believe you can do it too much. I believe it's different for who you are and depending on where you are and what you're doing. So the art and the science, again, might be so clear that what you're doing is a long endeavor and it's a lot of repeat things that the check-in may not be as required as frequent, or maybe not as deep as well as frequent, when you can just go, yep, are we where we're supposed to be? Yep, good. Because sometimes it's like, okay, well, we set out on this next endeavor. Let's check in. Is it still the endeavor we want? If it's a new endeavor, it might take a bit longer to check in. But I think like that's why you got to have a coach, for goodness sake. Or if you haven't got a coach, you need something else to do this for you, because there's no just put it in and it works. It's different for everyone. How do you see it?
I feel like I've been checking in since the beginning of the year.
And you think you've been only checking in since the beginning of the year?
Yeah, because I don't feel like I don't feel the alignment yet. And I think this is an interesting stretch between you and me, because you seem to have mastered, might be the word, like the business part of this is what I want. I'm going after it. We'll figure it out along the way. But this is what it is. I have a lot of resistance to that, because I've done that before in previous sales roles, and I know it took me to a place that I didn't love. And I'm battling between really, really defining what it is and having fun with that and trying to do that in new and creative ways, but also like not wanting to do things that don't feel good.
Yeah.
That's such a uh, there's many different ways to look at that, right? Like, well, what do you mean? You got to lean into the resistance and go for it. But I also don't want to betray what I'm actually good at or what my gifts are. I found myself saying no to a lot more people in the last couple weeks. I actually had a prospect. I just laid out the type of ideal client that I would want, and it was a different game than let's get this person to sign on and do coaching with me. And I'm in that place right now where it's messy. It still doesn't feel great even after that happened. It was like, oh shit, well, is that really what I wanted?
Mm.
I have the confidence that in the long term, whether that's a month more or 6 months more, that it will be worth it. But I'm still living in that space of I keep checking in to make sure that I'm not betraying um, the parts that feel true to me with the business side of things.
And is this feeling like you're moving forward? Are you? I guess the question, quite simply, is that are you okay with that?
I'm trusting. There's a lot of faith involved in this
Mm.
because it's
Right.
not for immediate results. It's not the purpose of it.
Right.
I can see it. In the meantime, it's just messy. That's the word that I would describe it. It doesn't feel great right now.
It doesn't feel good right now. Yeah. So sometimes the stretch is the fact that you can't stretch. We think about the stretch as being the
I
thing.
almost
It's like,
spit my water out everywhere there.
like we want to build, we want to create this next thing, but sometimes the actual thing that like we're looking for to stretch is like that's the stretch itself. Like the hero's journey that you're on right now is the fact that you can't go on a hero's journey, and that by itself is growth.
Yeah, I'm in the cave sharpening up the tools and repairing my equipment and like gathering my team up and mapping out on the cave wall my strategy and my route. And I feel like there's all these battles going on outside that I can help with, but what I'm doing is really preparing for when I go out. I'm not going to come back.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to kick so much ass that I'm going to have this whole army behind me, and we're just going to conquer.
Well, I want to be part of that. It sounds, it sounds like you're just doing a great job at not confusing distractions with opportunities, which is most of the time the other way around, as far as I can see. And that's great, generally speaking, for people, Yeah. And I also will preface it by where you are, what you're doing. Like my depth before coaching wasn't in types of roles that really excited me at their core. I can create some excitement in what I'm doing occasionally, but what I love about, and you talked about the business side of it, I love going out and creating it and going into me being on the front line of that. But I didn't do that for 20 years. So that's still like relatively new to me in that context, right? 6, 7 years. So, maybe that's a lesson I'll learn down the line as well that you've learned already.
That's interesting to think about. I was just having this conversation with, who was it today? It was a client. It was a client of mine. He owns a gym. You know who it is. Shout out to Donnie out there. I think he's okay if we talk about him here.
Yeah.
He was feeling, I don't know if bummed is the right word, but he come across prospects that want to become members of his gym, and he does things a different way than most gyms. It's not like, hey, just join, boom. There's a lot of accountability involved. He goes through a process to make sure it's the right fit.
Yeah.
And people would balk at his cost, at his pricing. And it was just so amazing to him that people would that would be the barrier to them actually joining, is you can't come up with that money. It was a very insignificant amount of money. And he was feeling that. He was feeling like, how many people are out there that are making poor decisions for their life, physical decisions for working out, dietary decisions for, what they eat, and then also financial decisions for themselves. And he was just in this place with, I want to be able to help these people, but I know I don't want to betray my values. So we got to this place where, him saying no to people and holding that standard, maybe his role for those people is having them feel one more pain point for them to actually do something about their situation. And he could just be enabling them, even if he did good in dropping his price and they were able to join his gym and get rolling that way. It's practicing the wrong game of just kind of giving in to what is out there instead of staying true to your principles.
Yep. Short-term versus long-term thinking, and scarcity versus abundance. My house is full of hair ties because I live with 5 women. 2 of them are cats, so probably that doesn't count.
They don't have opposable thumbs, coach.
That's true. Their hair's not really long enough for hair ties.
Right.
That doesn't be required. These things are about everywhere in my house, so hair tie. But I think about the hair ties, maybe not a hair tie, but maybe elastic band. Well, that's got some elastic in it, I suppose. Like I think about the tension or so not tension, that one extra thing that Donnie said to that person that kind of like weighed them down wasn't enough to be the straw that broke the camel's back, but it was part of it. And somewhere else down the line, that person's going to go to that next level, and he might not be a part of it. But I said this to a client today. Think about that elastic band or a balloon, right? Every time you pull it out, it does stretch out, and then when you let go of it, it does go back. But it doesn't go all the way back to as where it was in the first place. It has changed a little bit. And so you might have to stretch it out 20 times for it just to stay in that place. Or it may not be, but it might be big enough to put something through it by itself without stretching it out. And I think we're the same thing. Like once we've got stretched out, there's no going back, but there's an unlimited amount we can stretch to. And how do we know? And that's why there's no other option than sticking to what you know is best for you and your values and principles. Because how could you possibly legislate for everything else? Like you don't know. Is Donnie going to go and chase that person around the world and find out when it is that they do decide to do that? Could be forever. Could be never. Right? Could be never for that person. So the best version of us, that's why I say the best version of us is the best version for everyone, because you can stick to what you know is best for you based on your values. Then you're the constant. You're your own anchor in the ground. You're your own North Star, rather than finding and chasing that from anyone else. Most people aren't our clients, right? Yeah.
Right. I'm glad you concluded with that, because that's the way I feel. The power to create internally into external is far greater than externally internal. I'll feel good when I have all these clients. No, I'm going to keep feeling good, and therefore clients are going to be attracted to working to me. And it's like, it's hard to explain. It's like hundreds, if not thousands, if not more times more powerful to do it from the inside out, because you get to build. I think of us, we are energy, right? If you trace back to how we were born and conceived and all that kind of stuff, we're from cells and organisms that are super tiny, and the science behind it is that we're energy. That's what we are, right? So if we can find a way to grow that energy, and we can feel it, right? Athletes describe it when we're in the zone, when we're feeling good. We know what that is for us. And that's the indicator. It's very easy to lose yourself in that. I'm like, oh, I forgot that I don't feel that great anymore. Or I could be reminded of those, of how good it feels sometimes when I get back in the zone. And I guess I'm just at that place. I don't want to leave it. I don't want to leave it anymore. I've gotten a taste of it, and it's easy to stray. There's so many distractions around us, going back to that part of other people. I can help these people, but I know I'm at my best when I'm staying true to my internal energy, and it's just going to grow, and it's going to attract more and more of the right people. That's the other part of that too. Like the right people start to come out of the woodwork.
Is that all you can do? Is there another layer on top of that?
Can you ask that a different way?
I,
I feel like you're getting at something.
I'm thinking about that's the fundamentals, right? It's how are you looking at it? Is it outside in or inside out? And then he's like, I'm looking at it from the inside out. Okay, great. Like that, you're in the best place. But then, what do you do with it? Right? Because it's not enough just to say I'm sticking to my values. But like, what's the physical transformation of that? Because this is where it gets really intriguing, right? Because you need to have a we're talking about that. It's all about internal energy and about living internally. But then what's the physical outward version of something that's internal? It's like I can't, it's hard to even articulate that because I'm talking about, we're saying it's all internal. Then we're saying you need to, in order to like express that in some manner, then by the very fact that you are expressing it, it becomes external.
Yes. And so, what was your question again?
I don't know.
Is there another version? Is there
Well,
another
yeah,
layer?
like so once you go
Yeah.
internal, then what do you do about that? And I'm asking a doing question, which is an external thing. So you
Yeah.
might say, well, there's nothing to do about it, right? You could say that there's nothing to do.
I won't let our listeners down like that. It manifests itself, I think, is what you're getting at. And I would say go back a couple episodes. I want to make sure I get this right. It's either 132 or 133, which at the time of us recording this, it actually hasn't been released yet, but it will be released by the time this is released.
Right? Yeah, so we're good.
We did an episode a couple weeks ago where I basically took all my equipment into another room because I was feeling that type of way. I felt that internal fire burning within me, and it was maybe what's the word, unorthodox the way that I got there, but I was so excited about it that you could feel it from me. Could you not? Do you remember that episode? Remember what I'm
Yeah, I
talking
was like,
about?
what do you think, Coach? Yeah.
And I feel it now too, and I can feel it coming out. And you can just watch it from somebody and know that they're in the zone or they're speaking from their heart or they're feeling good. So that's my answer, is that my clients feel that from me. And that's the attraction part of it. It's like when you see a version of love or, a very surface level example is like an emotional scene in a movie. It moves you. You get moved. And so that's what this is all the time. I'm showing up to my client calls more in the zone, more in this state, and more easy to recognize and call them out when they're not being true to that energy, their own inner energy. And not only am I modeling it for them, but I'm also showing them how to navigate that when they're betraying their own inner energy. And that's cool. That's all the other layers and ripple effects too. Is that I'm being it, I'm showing it, I'm modeling it, and I'm also teaching other people how to do it, and then they're seeing the results themselves.
So how then? So you're it's manifesting itself physically, like in the external world, through the energy that you feel.
Yeah.
And that again, that's something that you have to. I think we all instinctively know it, but you have to learn to be able to see it when it's there, like have the awareness to know like that. Oh yeah, in the moment of it, rather than like that was what happened. Like what was the when I'm around that person, like I don't know what it is. Like it's that. But then how may you leverage the external world to create more of that internal energy and focus? Because it comes back around, right?
It certainly does.
So then what does that look like?
Yeah, and that might be more of that business opportunity where it feels more okay to me to, I'm identifying more strategic partners that see eye to eye with how I operate, and it might be in its simplest form, in the form of a compliment. I'm like you sound on point today, or like what did you eat for breakfast? And I want to hear what they're working on. So I'll give you an example. I'm talking to somebody who just switched her careers, and she's basically starting her own business. She just came from the education field. That's where I want to go. That's where I want to make the biggest impact. So all of a sudden, me doing this, maybe my eyes are just more open to it, right? But I'm recognizing these other opportunities of this leverage point. I got this image today during my meditation of like a big ship, and I had seen it before. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. And then the next part was these big sails coming down. And this is the way I want to operate my business, is just catching the wind with these big. This can be easy. There's these different leverage points that we can find in the form of relationships or connectivity to other people. But to your point, like as you express it, it comes back to you, and you can recognize these opportunities in a physical form, in some sort of action that you can take. But the form of those sales coming down and catching that wind is all these other people that are reflecting back to me abundance. Might be the easiest word. Like it's overflowing with opportunities where I can help people and apply this inner energy to more people more effectively and in a more efficient manner.
That's what becomes circular, right? All right.
Yeah.
The external representation of energy might be the expression of that through your mindset. Not quite there with this. So your that energy you can feel, like when you can see it in some things, right? But we might call that like that's why we like mindset so much, right? Because mindset is something a bit more tangible, except you can't see it, but it's a bit more tangible. As it's easy to put that into words as a representation of something that you do or do not do. So perhaps that mindset expression is the reflection of that internal energy of standing in your values. I'm sorry, client. I had a client tell me today, this was awesome. He's like, he's got his particular goals he's working on, and he's set out a set of potential clients that he thought that would be good candidates to use to add value through a different product set. And he did it in a couple of different ways, and he's meeting with all his clients. So the two of them didn't sign up for this. And he said, it's not because they said no, it's because I re-reviewed their stuff and I didn't think they were right for it. That was my favorite part of the celebration, because it shows a commitment to his values. It wasn't just like, if he hit those two more, he's going to get more dollars in the bank. He knows that that's not the way to go. Even if he had pushed it and they'd signed up, that's a lose. That's a lose for sure. And so like that, his energy allows that, because he's in that space of that abundance of being the best version of him. It shows up in the mindset expression of making sure that his clients getting the value that they need, and even if that's not serving them with another product.
It's almost like a filter that goes on top. He's looking out for the best interest of those around him and himself, right? That's the point of all this too, is that he's going to waste that energy. It's going to leak out if we're chasing and trying to convince other people, or let other people in who maybe are not at that point anyway, wouldn't know how to manage that energy.
That's why the most unselfish things are the most selfish things. Right? Zig Ziglar said, help enough people get exactly what they want and you'll never have to worry about getting what you want. Isn't that the most, like, the more unselfish you are, the more selfish it actually is. I don't know if that's helpful, but like it's useful to kind of play around with the thought of that, I find.
Yeah. One of my favorite television shows growing up was Whose Line Is It Anyway? They had a game on there that they could only ask questions in their conversation. You couldn't answer one. You just had to go back and forth. We should do a full episode with paradoxes, Coach. Just one after another. There's so many that are so true.
We should do, coaches Whose Line Is It Anyway? Maybe we can get Ryan Stiles on it. That would be fantastic. That guy was fantastic.
True Seekers guests.
There you go. Awesome, Coach. Take us home.
I'm glad I challenged the conversation a little bit. That was me practicing being real with the internal energy. And it still feels uncomfortable in certain ways, but I also think I'm onto something here. This will be cool. This will be a milestone episode to check back in on in a couple months. I shared earlier privately off camera. Also one of my lower revenue months in February, right before this is recorded. So, to me, that's a sign. I think it has to go a step back before it goes 2 steps forward. And we'll test that theory because time continues.
Ooh, that's an interesting one. I've got a couple of visuals in my mind. Like, it's the contract to expand. And then I went to like Marvel movies. Nothing in particular in my mind, but when they got like this huge gun someone's about to shoot, or like a huge one of the like the baddie guys has got like this thing that they're going to set off. Usually it's like all this energy out there, and just before like the major explosion, what happens? It sucks all the energy back in and then goes and blows it all back out again, right? It's like you got to contract before you expand. Awesome stuff, Coach.
Good image. All right. Thank you very much. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for watching another episode of Truth Seekers. We appreciate your interaction. So please comment, like, subscribe to YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you want more, check out some of our links. Links to our masterclass, The Achiever's Mindset, and come join our LinkedIn group. And what do you want to see more of? Remember, we're here to share the simple secrets of successful. So help us do that. What do you want to see? What do you want to see more of? Thanks, and see you again next time.